Okay, welcome to a very special edition of Off the Record with Buzz and Webby. We promised you an international superstar, and we've delivered.
Hugh Jackman didn't arrive.
He's a legend of rugby league, of TV, of radio, of newspaper, of podcasts, and Las Vegas dive bars. He played 176 matches for the Newcastle Knights, including the 1997 ARL Premiership, 25 games for the Wigan Warriors, 21 for the Sharks. He also played 9 matches for Australia, 4 for New South Wales before injury forced him to retire. But Buzz, are you listening to me?
Oh, I'm listening, Webby.
But Buzz, this guy's football career was merely a tasty entree before the sumptuous main course of rugby league analysis, impersonations and vague references to illegal activity. He's the star of The Late Show with Matty Johns, Sunday Night with Matty Johns, Morning Glory with Matty Johns, the Backstage podcast with Cooper and Matty Johns, the Johns Family podcast, and Matty and Kronk.
Well, I'm exhausted.
Some call him a megalomaniac. Those who work with him call him a tyrant and very difficult to work for. Personally, I'm yet to see it, but he is seriously one of the best humans I've ever met in footy and in life, and I'm sure, Buzz, you feel the same way. Matty Johns, welcome.
Fellas, thanks,
Welcome, mate.
Thanks for the invite. I'm enjoying the show.
Thank you.
I'm enjoying the show. Excellent.
Is there
What an
any-
intro, mate. What an intro.
Incredible, mate. I'm blown away by what I've done.
Not
eh?
bad. It took me all night to write that.
Did it?
And I usually invoice
Mate,
per
you're
word for that amount of writing.
Yeah. Very good.
Buzz, you lead off. You're the...
I don't know where to start with you, Matty. It's, I've never interviewed you. I can't recall the last time, apart from the stink in Newcastle.
Yeah, the Stig in Newcastle, that was the one where you said...
What year was it?
1996, Buzz.
Brother Andrew.
Brother Andrew, we were doing a training session at the field, and Andrew used to get in a mood sometimes. And when he was in a mood, he would deliberately fire passes at the feet of the players, the forwards who weren't so good with their hands.
Is that
And then
right?
give them a mouthful. So that was the last training session heading into Christmas. And we're going to this Vietnamese restaurant that night.
Yep.
Players, partners, coaches, wives, all that sort of stuff. And the players were just off Andrew. And I said, I can fix that. So I went to Joey and I just said, it's been cancelled. And he said, oh, mate, I'm happy anyway. I didn't want to go. I said, well, mate, you're in luck. So anyway, we're sitting at the Vietnamese restaurant, a darling little restaurant there on Delaney.
The Junction.
The Junction, yes.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there and I can hear this sort of rumbling coming down the street. And it's Andrew and his Palooka mates, all blind drunk. And when someone came in and said, your brother's coming out, I went, oh, here we go. He's going to find out I've double-crossed him. And, of course, he spots me in there and the whole team, and he starts screaming abuse. Might have been punching the front, the glass
Of the window.
frontage
Oh,
as
good.
well.
Good
Anyway, he's giving me a mouthful. Everyone in the restaurant's horrified. He walks, I know where he's going. He's going down the Cricketers Arms Hotel. And I'm sitting there and I'm starting to stew. And I said to Trish, I'm just going to go to the toilet. She goes, don't do anything stupid. I said, I'm just going to the toilet. So I've ducked out, gone down there and walked into the pub. And, of course, he's in there with all these dropkick mates, birds of a feather. And he's gone, here she is. She's arrived. And I said, come on out the front. Well, Trish had arrived. And when he came out the front, he was a little disorientated. On the way out, little did I know that on the way out, Trish had belted him over the head with a bag.
Oh, nice.
Got him with a sharp spot, obviously, because he was also full. And I thought, here we go. Here's the victory. And just hit him with a couple of lefts. He drops, and I say, you know what, my job's done. So off I go. And then 2 days later, I get a call from Buzz. Hey, mate, how are you? Phil Rossfield here. Oh, Jesus. I know what this is about.
If I close my eyes, I just said it could be Buzz.
And he was in complete denial. Complete denial.
And then he goes,
Not
mate,
knowing
I've got
that
the photos.
Yeah. Didn't have a photo. But, mate, I went to school.
I went to get a yarn up. I'm stunned.
I was raised in Newcastle. Matty didn't know that. And I had a few of the regulars at the Cricketers Arms I just happened to, be at school with. And, mate, they were reliable people.
Oh, I'm sure.
So when I ring Matty and he's in full denial, didn't happen, everything's sweet, I'll put Joey on, no drama. I said, oh, well, that's a shame, mate. I was going to write that you bashed him, and you clearly won the fight. And then he was...
I said, you got me.
Yeah. So
I don't like lying.
Where did run in the paper?
it was the lead to what's the buzz? Tell me what's happened. What's the buzz? Yeah.
And we had a dinner that night, a family dinner. It's fair to say the family dinner was a little icy.
A little bit frosty.
And my sister who's 10 years my junior, had her new boyfriend. It's the first time we'd met, and he's sitting in between Andrew and I.
Oh, nice.
At the dinner. And it was, it's a night he'll never forget.
Are you guys relieved that there was no such thing as camera phones back in the 90s? Because I used to.
There was CCTV footage, Andrew, if I'd needed it for a.
Oh, good on you, Buzz.
Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, it would have been different for a lot of footballers back then. Even the odd veteran journalist.
Yeah. Different for society, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you're seeing these things now on these different social media mediums like TikTok, where people just walk up to people in the street, start filming them and asking them political questions and things like that. You just come on. Yeah.
Well, your brother loves that stuff.
Andrew,
I've seen that. He's very good.
Yeah, he really does. He's a people person.
He is.
People he doesn't know.
I wanted to ask you, because I've seen you in public, Matty, like you're very good with the public, I reckon. You make a point of really stop. I remember we were in Vegas earlier this year when you and I ran into each other in front of the Bellagio, and neither of us were in a particularly great state to be talking to the public. But you had all these people coming up to you and you rolled with it. Like, do you make a point of not being a prick to people when they come up to you for a photo and a chat?
It's not a discipline at all. I actually like people. Yeah, it's just part of my makeup. I'm a conversationalist and I like people. So for me, it's no drama. It's just Andrew's just different. It's not. I've seen Andrew do some incredible things for people. For people, some people who are down on their luck, and some people who lived around the Newcastle area who were, really doing it tough and were at rock bottom. I've seen him do some amazing things. I remember my dear mate Brian Carney, when he played at Newcastle, he said he was saying to me, he said, I used to tell all the former teammates back at Wigan, you wouldn't believe, Andrew Johns sometimes, there was the local bloke who used to do it tough, was alcoholic, and Joey once a week would have him up on his balcony and they would sit there in the afternoon and have a beer. And yeah.
He's misunderstood your brother.
Yeah.
Matty, how are you two now?
Buzz, we're actually good. And the reconnections come through.
I heard the story of Jack.
My oldest son, Jack.
Yeah.
One thing about Andrew's a very good uncle.
Yeah, right.
He's a very, very good uncle, and he's very good to my boys. And they're really close, particularly Jack and he are really, really close. To the point that when I was away for a week or so, the neighbours were saying when me and Joey had fallen out, they were like, "Oh, well, it's nice to see that Andrew was around the house." And I said,
was
what?"
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But no, he's a very good uncle to the two boys.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to go back, and I'm trying to think of things you've never been asked before. You've done so well in life as a football player, now in the media, as Webby spelled off at the top. What were you like at school? Were you smart?
At school, I struggled at school, Buzz. I don't know, today there's all these terms for things and whatnot, and I've never gone and never tried to. But I had something going on because I could not hold attention whatsoever. I'd struggle in class.
Can you remember your HSC?
No. No, it was completely I remember having a science teacher who was a terrific bloke, and he came up to me, and it was about a month out from the HSC, and he had my exercise book, as of course the days before computers, the old exercise book, and he goes, I hand it to you, Johns. He said, I want to congratulate you. He said, somehow you've got away from the last 6 months not writing a single thing in this exercise book.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah. He said, I've got a lot of fears for your future. And I said, don't worry, I've got a lot of fears for Sarah as well. But no, I struggled at school, Buzz.
Were your mum and dad worried about you as a kid then?
Yes. Yep, that they were. For Andrew, it was always different. Andrew was actually a pretty good student.
Yeah, right.
And for Andrew, Buzz, I'm not exaggerating here and saying that, Andrew, when he was a kid, was quite a phenomenon when it came to rugby league. He's certainly not one of those guys who go, oh, who would have thought? And he just sprout wings. Andrew was a kid that he would get the worst player in the side and tell him, go down the other end of the field, stand in the in goal, and Joey would beat everyone handing the ball over the line to put the ball down. He was pretty amazing. I'm not comparing him to people like Wayne Gretzky, and I'm not for 1 second.
The people knew from an early age he was going to be a special footballer.
People knew. I remember interviewing Wayne Gretzky once and asked when I was working at Triple M, and lovely man, by the way. And I said to him, I asked him about what were you like when you were young, and he said, from as long as I remembered, I was always going to be the one. And they call him the great one or the special one?
Yeah, that's right. That's it. Yeah.
And he said people would drive sometimes 3 or 4 hours just to come and watch me when I was like a 7-year-old, Gretzky would say.
Yeah.
And I said, was that ever a burden? He went, no, because I always knew where I was going to go. And for Andrew from being a junior all the way through never endured any doubt whatsoever. The only thing he had to endure was, I'll never forget, were kids, and he, in the middle of the night, he was having this agonizing pain in his legs to the point that in a short period of time he could barely run. He could only really shuffle. And what it turned out, mum and dad sought diagnosis, no one could find it. Neil Halpin ended up finding it, and it was osculus, the growing disease in the legs, which can affect, a lot of times affects young sportsmen. And they got it in the nick of time. He said if this kept going, it was so bad. And how he got his start at the Newcastle Knights, he was trialling for the under-15 side. And I'll never forget this. I felt so sorry for him, because he was out there trialling and he couldn't run. It was almost like he could brisk walk, and people were laughing, going, look at this kid. Anyway, David Waite, to his credit, of course, former first grade coach of the Newcastle Knights, who at that point was, Wadey was the development manager at the Knights, who were in charge of signing young players. He just said, I'm going to sign that kid. He said for him to go out there and play with what was going on and what he was enduring, he said he's got something about him. I'm going to sign him.
I never knew that story.
Yeah.
When I started my career in Newcastle and remember covering the Knights, and when you guys were playing, a Sunday afternoon, Marathon Stadium, bathed in sunshine, and you guys would play there and the Knights would get on a roll, like you were unstoppable. To me, it looked like you were in the backyard at Cessnock or the park at Cessnock. Is that what it felt like? Yeah,
it did. It was just it was so much fun, particularly you think about, for whatever reason, some of those Newcastle sides I played in, we were almost like we never felt the pressure because we're so tight. We're like we really were like a family. I never realised what a special group we had until I left Newcastle. And you look back and you go, but it was like I'd wake up on the Sunday morning for the home games. I'd go around the corner, I'd pick Joey up, and we'd drive to the game, and you knew how big a crowd it was going to be by how far away from the stadium you start to see the cars parked. So if you're playing the Broncos and those big sides, honestly, you saw the cars parking kilometres away, and you're going, okay, we're going to have a full house. This is going to be something. And our dressing room before the game, it was like there were nerves, of course, but it was more excitement. We used to have music blaring in there. It was just so much fun. It really was.
Even with the Wok? When the Wok arrived?
Yeah, the Wok had his way.
How late in his career did the Wok arrive in your career?
Wok arrived in 99.
Right.
So when I come into first grade, I started getting a run around 91, 92. It was the David Waite years.
Yep.
And then went into Malcolm Reilly for a number of years, and then Warren came along. Right. So we had.
Did you get on?
Did initially. We got on really good. It was. When he first
didn't shackle you like he did a lot of great playmakers.
No, that was always a basic. He always to say to.
We used to call him Shackles.
He said, "Mate, Rothfield and those blokes are calling me Shackles. I'm just letting you know. I'm not going to shackle you."
I grew up with Stephen Mortimer, and he kept telling me he's shackling me.
Yeah. He had that reputation with us. Not so much because we'd been established, Buzz. And I look back, we did have.
What did you fall out over?
I think it was a number of things. I look back on it now, and I have to. I take a fair bit of responsibility out of it, but there were circumstances. There was, from my angle, like Warren had a difficult bedside manner. He was well known for that.
Yeah.
I've noticed.
Great tactically. But from my angle, it's funny. As I get older, I think about it more, and it actually starts. I'm able to piece the pieces. I put the pieces together a lot easier, and a lot of it is, if I move away from talking about Warren for a second, for me, I had about 4 really big years heading into 2000. And I'll preface this by saying I wasn't a natural footballer, Buzz. I just couldn't wake up on a Sunday and just go out there and play like an Andrew could, or, like a lot of those great players, like a Munster, I reckon, would do that. For me, I had to put myself
Sounds like my writing skills.
I wasn't going to say that, Buzz.
No.
But I had to put myself through the ringer all week to get myself to perform like I did, and that takes a toll. It takes a toll on you. So I came into grade 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98. Those 4 years were really big years. So 95, Malcolm really arrives. We suddenly go from being a mid-table side, we're starting to mature as a team. We get into the Final Four. At the end of that year, we go away for the Australian side. We taste State of Origin for the first time. The next year is a little bit of disappointment for the club, but we're still playing rep football. 97 was 97. It was just a mega year. Huge. 98, we had a great season again. We had a lot of injuries, but what we started to find out, it gave you a little insight. I can only imagine what Penrith are going through, going for 5 in a row. But even being the defending premiers and playing the next year, mate, you're playing against sides that are just sky high to beat you. And we led. We were joint minor premiers with the Broncos in 98, and then we just went lost, and went out. We were just we'd run out of gas. But then 99. Warren arrived, and I really channeled that much energy into 99. I said, righto, it's going to be a big season. And I reckon it was the best year of my career. Warren had a lot to do with that. I went away, got picked for the Tri-Nations. I was able to do something I could never do for the rest of my career, previously, and that was force Freddie into lock, and I played 6 in the Australian side, so it was a really big one. Yeah. So we played, and some of those games in that Tri-Nation, the final we played against New Zealand was, without a doubt in my mind, for me, the toughest game I'd ever played in my life. It was, mate, it was ridiculous. And then you go away, and it was an abbreviated pre-season because you've put a month or 6 weeks on the end of the year with rep football. And I remember coming back to training in 2000, and I just didn't want to be there. And there was just something missing to the point that if you told me to run 100 metres down the other end field in a drill, I'd struggle to do it. I put so much into those previous 5 years, and particularly the 12 months before, that I just emptied myself out. Yeah, I started the season on the back foot. I got an injury in the trials, and from then I was just playing catch up. And so I was difficult to. I would have been a difficult person to deal with at that time. And of course, on top of that, Warren could be a difficult guy to work with. Warren is an uncompromising man. Yeah, it's just like it's all about wins. It's all about losses.
Didn't you have a blow up on the training paddock?
Yeah, there was a blow up in the training paddock. I remember Baz too. He wrote about it. Yeah, it was something like there was a bit going on, and Warren had said something to one of the players, and and then I chirped up and started saying something, and things just sort of went from there. And things were not really the same after that.
Didn't you not say you're not one of us? Was that one of the things you said? I remember the stories from the time.
Don't know.
Have I made that up?
I don't know, Webby.
Maybe I read that in your story.
I don't know. It was a long time ago, and it was a difficult time because I'd always been a bloke that always got on very well with his coaches, and become an easy teammate to get along with. That year I wasn't at all. I was a really frustrated player, and that's my side of it. I look at things that Warren, could have done a lot better and whatnot, but at the end of the day, I've
You're
got to
right,
take my
you're right
shot.
about his table manners or lack of.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, mate. He could hit you.
That's
he
not
could
just
hit
in
you
Newcastle. That was career.
Yeah, he could hit you between the eyes with something.
Yeah.
Of course, he was so articulate, and I believe he was an English teacher.
Matty, can you tell us a story about Super League and Ken Cowley? Was it calling when you're at Sizzler?
Well, if we go back,
Sure.
it's just.
I'm trying to remember the stories you've told me on the piss and how many.
I'm trying to
what's
remember.
on the pub.
I'm trying to remember the
what you
stories
haven't
I've told
said
you on the
publicly.
piss.
Yeah, and before you tell it, I reckon you and Andrew saved the ARL. If you two would jump ship with this Cowley story you're about to tell us,
Yep.
I reckon that's the end of the ARL. That's how big they were, Webby, as you
Sure,
know.
no, I'm aware.
Humility and modesty aside,
I'm serious.
I agree. Looking back now in hindsight, didn't appreciate it then, but you look back now and I've only really understood in the last 10 years how momentous our decision was going to be. We had no idea. And it started by the fact Newcastle was always the lowest, one of the lowest paying clubs. It was always broke. Remember that? It was always broke. And I remember the club once, we didn't have this is a good one. This shows how naive we were. The club were looking to re-sign Andrew and I, and there was a bit of interest around. There was a little bit of interest.
Did you always do a package, you two? Or?
No, not really. I wanted to. But there was clubs like the Western Reds at the time because there was a lot of halves at the club, and it was about 1992, and I had little touches of first grade, but Matty Rodwell and Mick Hagan was locked in, and the Western Reds reached out about Andrew and I going over there and playing. There was a bit going on, but they wanted to re-sign us. We didn't have a manager. And then, can you believe this? Someone from the club said, we know two blokes who should manage you blokes. So they got these two blokes. Fancy listening to a club CEO who you're negotiating with tell you should get managers to negotiate on your behalf. Well, we signed, this was season 94. Mate, we signed on big deal. We got a big contract. I was on 15 grand and Joey was on 12 and a half.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
How Andrew settled on
No
12
brown
and a
paper.
half, I'll never know.
No brown paper bags?
No brown paper bags in those days. No cash. No cash in Newcastle.
Nothing.
No cash at the Knights. None. That was it. And you know what? I was happy. I was actually thinking I was going good. The only
You
thing
could buy a house then for
No, you couldn't.
50K. You could that.
About
It was
first house I bought in Newcastle.
Yeah, then
Shortly
you-
after, I did a loan. I bought first house for about 130 grand. And I thought, as I paid, I think a lot of people would later go, I'm never going to be able to pay this back. Super League sort of helped with that. But it, in 94, I'm on 15 grand, right? And I'm thinking, I'm going pretty good. And I went down, I got selected for country origin, and I'm sitting and I failed a fitness test. I'd hurt my knee the game before against Norse, but I'm sitting in between Ricky Stewart and Lazo, and they're talking across me, talking about contracts and the amount of money that Lazo is on at the Broncos, and I'm sitting there going, fucking hell, I think I've been had. Either he's lying, I've been had, and I've been had. And so we're at 15 grand, 12 and a half grand, and Malcolm really comes to the club. We win about the first number of games in a row. You could just feel a momentous big shift, a momentous shift in the club. And then we're going down to play Balmain Tigers at Parramatta Stadium, right? We all jump on the bus, and someone out of the blue just goes, "You heard anything about this Super League?" This was on the Saturday, and it just broke. He said, "Mate, I've just gone past the news agents, and there's a big thing." And we're like, Super League. Anyway, we get on the bus, and it's just, we turn on the radio, and everyone's going, "What is this?" Like, there was the Saturday morning. By the time that we reached North Parramatta, the ridges there were already a stack of managers at the hotel waiting for us.
Stop it.
Waiting for players. Yep. Because a lot of the Newcastle players, I think amongst the Newcastle players, only Chief had a manager, his brother. Everyone else was basically open for business. And we no longer had our managers once we worked out that they were working for the club. So we're by ourselves. And me and Andrew check into our room. We're in a room together, and the phone just starts calling. player manager after player manager. One player manager just keeps calling back all the time and saying, mate, I represent Super League. If you don't sign with the Super League, there's a chance you and your brother, your careers could be over. I'm the only one you'll be able to deal with. And we're like, mate, why don't you, he said, come down, sign a Super League contract now. There's 200 grand waiting for you right now. And we go, where are you? And he goes, okay, go to the window, look down at North Parramatta McDonald's. That's me waving.
You
Stop
serious?
Yeah, that's me waving.
Are you kidding?
So anyway, he keeps ringing.
You can't say who it is.
No, but I don't know. He rings again. I just say, mate, got to fuck off. Leave us alone.
Was Isaac Moses around then or no?
Chimes.
He wasn't.
Chimes.
That was pre those days.
pre-
Please
Isaac.
tell me it wasn't my dear friend Chimes.
No, it wasn't Chimes. It wasn't Chimes. But the next minute, he's banging on the door. He's banging on the hotel. So we rang the football manager, Robert Finch, and said, mate, can you get these blokes away? So he went down. He went down to the to reception and said no phone calls through to the rooms, and basically, they stood at the lifts and made sure no player managers were going to get up there. But we go and play the game. We play the game. We beat Balmain. We come back. And we arrive and we go, right, we're going to have there's a meeting upstairs at the club, and we're just totally naive to what's going on. We walk in there, it's starting to form the picture of what's going to go on. Where do we sit? We don't know. And Super League do a presentation. Malcolm Node and there was someone else. I believe at the time, I've been told now, Webby, through
David Smith?
through your book. I wasn't David. No,
Was
no.
it David Smith?
No, it was Malcolm Node. David Smith wasn't at that one.
Yeah.
He ended up coming to
Oh,
another
no, it
one.
was Node and who
Peter
else?
Jordan.
John, he was a solicitor.
Anyway.
But Webby, in The Wolf You Feed, like
I should remember it. I wrote it.
no, well the thing about it is that we believed that it was going to be John Rebo and a couple of others come down and sell us the Super League dream. But unfortunately, Wayne pulled out of a meeting.
That's right. That's what he said. He didn't.
Wayne blew up in Brisbane and held him back a day.
He did.
Yeah.
That's what
And
happened. And
Lachlan-
Lachlan had to go up there to sort
You
it
know
out.
why Wayne blew up? And I did the front page. I had about 40 headshots on the front of the Sunday Telly Sport,
Yep.
signed, sealed, delivered, and Wayne's head was in there.
Yeah, that's what set him
And
off.
Wayne went absolutely ballistic
Yeah,
and
right.
pulled out of that meeting you're talking about.
That's right.
Well, if they'd arrived at that meeting, there's every chance that.
So
Held him
basically,
back.
how Buzz changed the course of Super League
Yes,
history.
you did,
That's
Buzz.
Well,
what-
I'd sent you the page.
I did. I've seen it.
So
It's in the book.
So the presentation was pretty cool. The overhead projector broke down.
That's
So
right.
actually,
Shit.
the players started jeering, and basically, because no one knew who Malcolm Node and the other guy was. Everyone's like, mate, who are these blokes? Just hillbillies from Newcastle. So we start sledging them and all this sort of stuff. We only took it serious when they said, right, what we're going to do, we're going to conduct meetings now. You are to come in singularly. Me and Andrew went in together, but singularly. If you've got a manager, call him. He can come. But whatever we offer you, the Super League has to remain completely got to be
Confidential,
completely
yeah.
straight. First guy that went in was Darren Tracy. So Darren Tracy goes in. He's probably on about 10 grand, and he's sitting there. And he comes. They can sit. They're sitting in a glass office, right? And we're at the bar. And he walks out of the glass office and he looks at us and goes, "I've just been offered fucking 250 grand, right?" And they're watching him do that, right? And straight away, everyone just went, "Wow!" So me and Andrew and I go in there, and they offer us 350 a year for 5 years. I know. We're going, wow, okay. I think it was about 100 grand up front. Good offer. So we go, okay, we go away, and they said, "We'd like you to sign it." We said, "We don't want to do it yet because a lot of the other players are undecided. We want to keep the team together." Anyway, one thing leads to another, and the offers just keep getting bigger for Andrew and I. And the reason was that Chief, they got to Chief, the ARL had got to Chief, and he'd signed right up. And so that was a big blow to the Super League.
What did Chief get, you know?
I don't know, Buzz. I don't know. But he
Then he put you on the bus.
put us on the bus. So the next day, we went and saw Chief and to his house, that night. We said, "We've just been offered this. We're going to go to the Super League." And he was distraught. And he said, "Boys, just can you do me one favour? Let me drive you down to the ARL headquarters, Phillip Street, tomorrow. Let's have a listen to what Quayle and Arco are going to offer. And then from there, sweet." We all jump on the minibus, right? This is hilarious. Super League Super League start making phone calls to people on the bus. So phones are getting passed around. I didn't have a phone. Phones are getting passed around. And players, like there were players on there that they've been offered 150. Suddenly they're going, we'll give you 250. So there were players on the bus that were going, oh, hang on a second, Chief. Hold on a second. Oh, Jesus, I just forgot it's my sister's birthday. Let me off. Players were literally hopping off the bus.
As it was going down.
As it was going down.
I've never heard that story. That's sensational.
Because the Super League said, if you go into Phillip Street, basically no contract.
Right.
That's the deal. So we go down. We speak to the ARL. There were no offers given to us then, but they were going to send a couple of representatives down that night after we trained, and they're going to make offers. What happens in between, as the phones are getting passed down, and it keeps getting passed to me. So Andrew and I, our offer went from 350 to, as we're about to walk into Phillip Street, 550 to, as we're driving back home to Newcastle, 700, right?
A year?
5 years, a year. And it's climbing, right? We get to training and we're on the training field. The training session's just about over, and someone who was involved with the club who wanted to go to Super League put his hand on my shoulder and went, the offer's 750 a year, 700 up front, and for 7 years. And I went up to Joey and whispered to him, mate, we're signing with Super League. Right. Okay. Next person we go up, we grab Chief. We said, Chief, this is what's... He started crying. He was like, the club's breaking up, you know. Anyway, he goes, boys, can you just give me 2 hours? He rings Gus, says, mate, this is what's happened. Gus says to Chief, tell him to hold on. I'm flying down the highway. So they go charging down the highway, and Gus gets up and does this Churchillian speech in front of the whole group. It's very good. You know how Gus can talk. Yeah. And he goes, and he understands that we're just young blokes from the Hunter Valley, from coalfields. All we ever want to be is footballers, right? And all we want to do is play for the Knights. So he goes, tell you what, breaks my heart, boys. It breaks my heart. The fact that my favourite players, a few of my favourite players of all time, Ricky Stewart, Bradley Clyde, Laurie Daly, they will never play rugby league ever again. They will never play rugby league again. Can you believe that? And we're going, oh, fuck. Next minute, our CEO or football manager puts his head around the corner and Gus spots him and goes, hey, you, who are you? Who are you? You know, I'm the general manager or whatever his job was. He goes, let me ask you a question. Now, unbeknownst to us, the club want to go to Super League. Gus says, what do you want these boys to do? And he shits himself and goes, we'll do whatever the players want. He goes, perfect, thank you. See, boys, it's up to you blokes. Righto, who wants to sign for the ARL? And everyone put their hands up except Andrew and I. Right? And he just zeroed in on us. And he's staring at us. And he goes, righto, let's have a meeting. Everyone, I'm going to talk to you one by one. You two blokes first. So we go in there and he goes, righto, let's be straight up here. What they've offered you. Yep. He goes, mate, letting you know now, we can't match that. You know, the Packers would skim me alive. He said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to offer you $350 a year, $250 up front. It's 5 years. We straight away, we're the win put up us, and all the boys want to stay the night. We want to keep the nights together. We said, sold. Right,
yeah, it's half the money, mate.
It's half the money. Fair play to Gus, right? I'll never forget him doing this. I reckon he's gone, mate. He'd be thinking to himself, I can't believe I'm about to do this with these two young blokes. Like, they're so naive.
Yeah.
We haven't got a manager. He goes, right, fellas, this only stays between us. If the Packers find out about this, they will kill me. I'm going to give you boys a 24-hour clause to get out of your contract. He said, any time between now and then, you can just tear the contract up and go to the Super League. But no one else is going to get that offer, none of your mates, and no one needs to know about it. If the Packers or anyone asks you about it, Matthew, you have to say that you demanded it. I said, okay, no problem. So we leave. Honestly, boys, within 20 minutes of leaving the room, it's out that we've got a clause. So the offer goes up to 800 and just keeps climbing. Anyway, it got to the point that it was getting crazy. And we we just made a decision to basically not take any calls and to avoid everyone because we want to stay as a team and we don't want to know what they're going to offer us. And it comes up that there's 1 hour to go the next day before the clause runs out, the next afternoon. We've got about an hour and a half. And we're sitting in Sizzler because that's what winners do. Millionaires do. They sit in Sizzler, have the cheese toast and the shrimp fry and the hibachi chicken. And the manager of Sizzler comes out and goes, "Hey, Matty, there's a bloke on the phone." And I went, What? He said, "In the kitchen. He's heard that your blokes are here." I've gone, "It's fucking bizarre." So I've gone in, I'm going, "Hello." He goes, "G'day, Matthew, it's Ken Cowley." I went, "Sorry? Who's Ken who?" He goes, "It's Ken Cowley, Matthew. Do you know who I am?" I said, I'm apologise. I don't. He said, "I think it was just about
Chief executive of
News Limited." And I went, "Okay." And he said to me, he said, "You and your brother are very naive, aren't you?" And I thought, well, if I say no, it shows I am naive, you know. And I say, and he said, "You don't realise that money we're offering you has got nothing to do with your football ability, nothing at all. It's the fact that we need a Newcastle team, and if you blokes come with us and sign, we can build a team around you two blokes, and we believe it'll exert enough pressure that Super League will win the war." So, Matthew, what I'm going to say to you is this. Just name a price, any price, because it's got nothing to do with football. It's just got, this is your decision now, could win us the war. And I went, Ken, here's the problem I've got, mate. All of my best mates have followed me, and Andrew and I, in because we've signed, and they ain't got a clause to get out. And he went, right. He said, "Matthew, with the money I can give you, you can buy a whole set of better friends." And I just said, "Ken, I'm so sorry, but I said, mate, I just can't do it by conscience."
And I wonder why we had a pay freeze on the editorial floor for all those years.
Yeah, he couldn't do it. And
there you go.
Fair play to him, he went, "You know what?" He said, I respect that. Yeah,
Please tell me you did better out of the ARL than...
No, that was it.
That was it.
Really?
350. We had 5 years at 350, and we had 250 up front. Which, when you're coming from 15 grand a year, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, in comparison to your life post career, it's chicken feed, really, isn't it?
yeah.
Hey, listen, I want to let's go into your career post footy. Last year during Magic Round, you had the family podcast at that pub on
Lefties.
at Lefties at Caxton Street, and I was lucky to be there. And you had all your Newcastle teammates there from back in the day, and you and the boys and Trish were doing your bit up there on stage, and we were all pissing ourselves laughing. And I turned to Matt Gidley, he goes, "This is exactly what he would do on the bus when we were players." Did you ever envisage, Matty, that you would have the post football career that you've got?
I didn't, Webby. My trajectory I saw as I would I'd play, and then basically as soon as I'd retire, I'd look into go into coaching.
Right.
Because we're very fortunate in the fact that Malcolm really would basically go to Andrew and I, but also go to the playing group and go, "Listen, we're playing Manly this week. What do you reckon about these blokes? How are we going to play them?" And, you know, I like looking back at Malcolm then, like it wasn't about Malcolm saying, "Oh, you know, I don't know how to play these blokes." It was about the fact that if you're a coach, it helps a lot. You know, if the team believes in the game plan, and if they come up with a game plan, they're going to believe in it. And so we'd say, "Right, Malcolm, I reckon, mate, what they like to do coming out of yardies, they compress, so we'll push the ball wide. Then we get in attack, they open up, we'll play through and we'll play the game." Yeah, great. So we'd all do this every single week, and you actually start to find yourself coaching and doing that sort of stuff. And then in 97, the other one too in 97 was the fact that Malcolm, going to that 97 season, I'm trying to get the order here right. I think it was Malcolm's father might have passed. So he went back to England for a couple of weeks. So we sort of had to, and simultaneously, Peter Sharp, who's a reserve grade coach, he got pinched by Parramatta to go there. And these are the days before you've got a million assistants and all that sort of stuff. And so Malcolm, that 2 weeks, we had to almost coach ourselves. And then when Malcolm come back, his other parent got very, very sick. So he had to go back again. And so we did it all again when he arrived back. And this is the mark of Malcolm. champion he was. He just arrived back and goes, righto, how we playing? And that's it. And we just went from there. So I always thought, Webby, Buzz, that I would go into coaching, but right at the back end of the career, they used to give me some things on the footy show. And then after I retired, they offered me a role on it. And I just ventured into that part of my life, and I've never gone back the other way.
Coaching. I spoke to you several months ago, and you're not under contract.
Not under contract, mate. Not with the new owners, mate. I'm still.
Yeah. What are you going to do there?
Don't know,
because I hear there's radio interest, there's TV.
Yeah. I haven't sought any other employment at the moment. I reckon in my whole working life, I've never had a better time than I am right now, working with everyone. The good thing after you've been doing it for a long while is like you can pick and choose. You can pick who you want to work with.
Yeah.
And so, with radio, Webby, and then, with the TV stuff with Fletch and High and him, we had Gordon there for years. It's just, it actually, it reminds, just what I was just talking about when those Newcastle days where everyone's a family and when everyone's just pushing the same direction, everyone gets on, everything's easy.
Yeah. And
so once I started sort of pushing in that direction, Buzz, and saw the effect that it was having on coaching was having on coaches, I never really had the desire to go back. I've had interest. I've had interest numerous times, but I've never made the jump.
You do a bit of one-on-one still? Or?
Yep.
Yeah, right.
Still do, yeah. Yep, still do.
You worked with some handy players, though, over the years, haven't you? Cooper and who else?
Yeah.
Munster.
Cooper, Munster. The year there was Munster, there was the year Slater was coming back with a shoulder. That was a great experience. I worked with Melbourne for a number of years. And then in 27, they won the comp in 2012. And from there, they'd had a couple of disappointing seasons. They got beaten in the grand final in 2016. Anyway, they reached out to me and said, would you think about doing our attack again? And I said, yeah, good as gold. And so, mind you, no money. Don't worry. Yeah, I know.
That's right.
I know. Yeah, money. It must have travelled how naive I am. But anyway, I enjoyed doing it. And so what it was about that year was trying to attack a different way. But also on top of that, Slater was coming back into that side. Slater had missed a year or two with that shoulder injury. Munster had been the fullback. Suddenly Slater's coming back, and there were a lot of doubts around Slater. But then if Slater's coming back, Munster's got to move to 6. And so we'd just go down the park and we'd bet all that combination down. And it was great. And it just shows you how good the Melbourne Storm are, right? So on the Northern Beaches, those blokes could have stayed in 5-star accommodation in Manly, or there's great accommodation here, there, and everywhere. Mate, they stayed in basically a hostel.
That's right,
They stayed in a hostel, those blokes. Like, it just says a lot about that.
How much are you, so you're doing, like even now, you're doing much work with halves?
I'll do a little bit. Halves will reach out individually.
Right.
So there's about 3 in the comp that I'll work with, but if they reach out to me, oftentimes I'll reach out to the coach and say, hey, listen, we're going to keep this really tight, but he's going to work. Righto. Are you comfortable with that? And secondly, what does he need? And we go
Matty,
from there.
Triple A, we're talking about your TV now, but technology. Have you got your mobile with you now? Do you use it?
I've got a mobile, that's it.
Do you know how to log onto a computer?
No.
You seriously don't?
No, I've never turned a
computer on. Have you got an email on your phone?
Trish put one on there, but I wouldn't even know what it is.
What, you've never sent an email?
I've never sent an email in my life. I've never.
I presume you can text.
I can text. I've learned actually to be able to speak text.
Crazy, isn't it?
Revelation. But
you cannot long alt delete.
No, I'll tell you what happened, Buzz. So I used to rely on Trish. Remember when I used to write.
He used to write a column from England when he was in England, and it was his handwriting fax.
It's when you're a sports editor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you type it? Do you bash it out? Or?
No, I got someone else. Of course,
But Trish used to. Then when I used to send it via email, Trish would have to type it in, and she'd send it via hers. But then what would happen is she'd hold it against me. If I was out late and spent a couple of days drinking, she'd just go, I'm not going to do your article this week. And I've been trained, so I had to work out how to do it
I was
myself.
wondering why you missed a few deadlines.
You must enjoy doing, the podcast with your family and your boys.
I
and
do.
Cooper's very much going down the same path as you in many respects.
He's better than me.
You reckon?
But it's
Yep.
funny how Jack's the opposite to you, and he's
Oh.
so technology savvy.
Oh, mate, it is really funny. Like, Jack and I look similar, but Cooper and Trish are just like Jack. He is just the Italian part of the family.
Right.
Very sensible, mate. I'm telling you right now, he's the glue that holds our family together, that kid.
Is that right?
He's the glue. He's the glue that holds the extended family together in a lot of ways. Always has been.
Yeah, right.
Andrew, that
He's a bit
fight,
of an old soul, Jack.
old soul.
Yeah.
Even when he was born, Andrew and I had gone through a little bit of a difficult period after that fight, Buzz, unsurprisingly. After that fight, and it was only when Jack was born that all that dissolved away. He's always been a bloke that sort of held the family together. Cooper's just, he's working Colin, Jackie O and everything at the moment. Very gregarious. Probably burning the candle at both ends a little hard, but that's what you do when you first retire, I suppose. But it is great.
He's a
working.
Johns.
He is a Johns. He is. But it's in the DNA. But it is great, mate. So it's really good. And it came about. It was by accident. Remember we used to do that. Do you remember, Buzz, when we used to do that when during COVID, we go and sit in that room and it was just, like Crawls had to keep the business going for people to be paid.
Yeah.
So there was no game to talk about. So we used to just go in a
Used to
room
do
for
sort of
3 hours.
podcasts
Yeah,
on
just do
TV.
live podcasts for the TV. Anyway, what happened, there was a bit of a COVID scare again, and you could only go into the building once a week, but they needed me to do another one. Yeah, it was right. And I just said, bring the podcast gear to the house and I'll get the family to do a podcast. And they said, will it work? I said, have you met the family? It will work. No worry.
And now look at it.
It's good,
Very
yes.
good. Just don't encroach on our numbers. That's all that we worry about.
That's all right, mate.
We're trying to-
it's crazy.
We'll collaborate.
I think you should bring us into your into the podcast, into the empire.
Into the bosom.
Listen, we could
Why
talk.
don't you advertise with us, your podcast? We're looking for a sponsor.
Are you?
That'd be good. And one podcast sponsoring another. I think
I'll send it via email.
Yeah.
I'll send the offer.
Matty,
Yeah,
we could sit here and talk all day, but we're getting wrapped up. Thanks so much for joining us, mate. You've been a great mate to both of us and colleague over the years. So thank you so much for being our first special guest on Off the Record.
Thank you very much, Webby. Buzz, appreciate it, boys. Thank you. Congratulations on the potty.
Thanks a lot, Matty. You are so important and to rugby league. You really are. That madness on, when is it? Thursdays, Sunday night?
Thursdays and Sundays.
Thanks for watching.
It's so stupid, that show.
It is. It is.
It
I
is.
know.
It's-
Buzz, have you
but
listened to
it's-
ours?
Well, let's do it the other
But
night.
seriously, mate, you're such a big part of rugby league, and it's been so good here to lobby the sub.
One to finish with the other night. We got the audience there, right? And we're sitting there, and I get Toby Sexton and Max King, and we're chatting away, and I just lost it. I went, oh, where am I here? Where am I? And this bloke from the audience goes, how fucking long you been doing this for, mate?
Yeah, good.
Too long. Good
Good on you,
stuff.
boys.
Thanks,
Thank
mate.
Thanks, Matty.